Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and we're back with another archetype. And as you can see, I currently have a green screen behind me. Now, it's not ready yet. I need to get my lighting orientated. You can see in this bottom corner over here, it's kind of dark. So it doesn't quite work yet. I'm still working it out, but soon there's going to be a green screen behind us. So that's going to be cool. Anyways, so today we're doing probably one of the most interesting archetypes that are in Pathfinder, at least currently, and this one is very character defining, in my opinion, because it kind of twists the idea of the Necromancer on its head. Because exactly that, we're going to be talking about the Hallowed Necromancer. Now, the Hallowed Necromancer is someone who takes the aspect of necromancy, which necromancy isn't control of death as much as it is control of living and undead energies. It's mostly positive and negative energies is what technically constitutes necromancy in Pathfinder 2nd edition. So a hallowed necromancer is a necromancer who more just eschews aiding undead in any way in exchange for certain powers and abilities that allow them to further repulse undead. Now, we're going to get into it in the dedication, but it is not actually forbidden for you to use negative spells. You just can't use them for acts of creation or aiding undead. So it's pretty much the best way to look at how Hallowed Necromancer is you cannot aid undead in any way or create them. Now, this doesn't mean healing allies who have the negative healing trait goes anathema to what you're doing, because not necessarily, unless they are, of course, an undead ancestry, are things like Damfire's undead. So you can still aid them normally. But let's go ahead and get into the dedication itself. So the dedication you can get at level 2. Now you do need to be expert in religion, which can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but somewhat manageable. I'm sure you can manage to get expert in religion by level 2. If this is a archetype you want to pick up, this is a pretty good archetype. It lasts, I think, well into like the mid to late game as far as feats are concerned. And now there are some aspects here that are not going to necessarily mesh with the remaster, but as has been said many, many times when the remaster is talked about, the remaster and old version of Pathfinder 2nd Edition are still compatible. So you do need to be good alignments to be a Hallowed Necromancer. And when the remaster comes out, they're just going to reinforce the anathema, which is actually mentioned in the feat description itself. In fact, we can read it here. Your anathema is create, heal, or otherwise aid or promote undead is anathema to you, as well as the act of cooperating with them. So as long as you don't do that, you're fine. It even goes to the extra length of saying that you can make an atonement ritual if you know someone who has the atone ritual to get back into the good graces, I guess, of the positive energy plane. There's not really a god associated with Hallowed Necromancer, so I don't know who's really enforcing anathema, but it's a thing. So that's going to probably replace the alignment issue when it comes to the requirements. Now, as well, you need to be able to cast spells from spell slots, so you can't do any kind of cheeky picking up some extra spells by picking up a cantrip from your ancestry, like you can with some other archetypes. You do need to have spell slots. Now, you can multi-class archetype to get spell slots and then pick up Hallowed Necromancer, but unless you're doing that really early, or you're an Ancient Elf, which I think can... No, even the Ancient Elf can't get away with the early level, so spellcasters can get this earlier than non-spellcasters, which makes a lot of sense, because the whole thing is using spells. And you do need the access to at least one necromancy spells. Now, if you're a cleric, oracle, or the like, it's not that difficult. In fact, you will have access to at least one on your spell list at any one time. Now, if you're a wizard or witch, you do need to have learned at least one spell that has necromancy. Now, it doesn't say that the spell needs to be from a spell slot. So technically, you can just pick up like Haunting Him or some kind of cantrip to replace the necessity for knowing a necromancy spell. but that's only in the case of the witch or the wizard, so something to keep in mind. Other than that, the initial dedication feat really just gives you Hallowed Ground, which is a focus spell which comes with a focus point. And what Hallowed Ground does, and I'll read it over here, you create a 10-foot burst within 60 feet, and it has a duration of a minute. That space is inhospitable to undead. Each time an undead creature in the area takes positive damage, each time an undead creature in the area takes a d6 positive damage and d4 good damage when you cast the spell who are in that area with a basic fortitude saving throw. After that, the area then gives all undead in that area a weakness 1 to positive damage and your necromancy spells while in the area. So it's positive damage and your necromancy spells. So spells that might not necessarily do positive damage will do damage to them. Now, I don't know why they mentioned that, because technically if it's a necromancy spell, it's going to do positive damage. I don't know of any that don't do it except negative damage, but they're still technically immune to negative damage. I guess they could still take a point of damage from it, but I don't know. Very interesting, very interesting. This spell also automatically counteracts any attempt to raise dead in the area. So, and if you cast it again, it replaces the area, it goes away. And you can heighten it to do additional damage when you cast it initially and to increase the weaknesses it imposes. So, Hallowed Ground is great. A 10-foot burst is not very big, though. More or less, the strategy when using Hallowed Ground is to have your allies get into the Hallowed Ground and force the undead to fight you in that area, because undead in the area will obviously leave it, as even mindless undead will avoid being destroyed from positive energy sources. So it's something that is very important to keep in mind. But overall, it's not a bad focus spell. I'm a little disappointed that the dedication for Hallowed Necromancer, for how much flavor it has, doesn't really offer much. Just a focus spell, which other archetypes really give. I don't know. Very interesting one. But let's get on with the rest of feats, as this video is already going on a little too long. Hallowed Initiate gives you one of two focus spells. You can either get Call of the Grave, or you can get Death's Call. Either one of these, it doesn't really matter. One comes from the wizard school focus spells. The other one is a domain focus spell. That doesn't really matter for you particularly, I guess, unless you're already a wizard or already a cleric who might be able to use this to get like advanced domain initiators. No, because you have to pick up the initial feat. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is you get Death's Call and Call of the Grave, which are two pretty decent focus spells. I'm not going to go into them here, but they're pretty solid choices overall. Oh, and before I forget, you can also select this feat again to get the other focus spell. So, it's a really good way to stack up on focus points if that's really what you want to do. And the spells can be handy depending on your situation, but you can always retrain this particular feat to swap the spells if necessary, which is always a good thing. Next up is Sacred Spells, and it gives you Chill Touch, Death Ward, Disrupt Undead, Disrupting Weapon, Holy Cascade, Magic Stone, and Sunburst onto your spell list. Now, it doesn't say that it just adds it to your book if you're a wizard or witch, but you can now select these if you couldn't before, which is pretty good, because most of these you can't select on the arcane spell list. Yeah. Then on top of that, you get an additional benefit depending on whether you're a prepared caster or a spontaneous spellcaster. Prepared spellcasters can, when they're refocusing, which is a 10-minute activity, they can also swap one of their current spells for a spell of equal spell level from this sacred spell list, which is all the spells that I mentioned before. Now, if you're a repertoire caster, you add two of the spells from this list to your repertoire, and they are signature spells for you, in addition to your normal signature spells. When you get an ability to cast a new level of spells, you can choose to switch the spells from this feat to any other spells from the list. So essentially, as you level up, you can get access to higher level, like Holy Cascade, as one of your signature spells, rather than, say, Disrupting Weapons, which is good, but not a very good spell in the late game for sure. So overall, Sacred Spells is really good. It also mentions that, in the wizard part specifically, you can swap a spell to one of your sacred spells. So whenever it says sacred spells, it's from this spell list specifically that it's mentioning. That kind of confused me, so I wanted to make sure I cleared that up for some people. Death Warden is an okay feat. I wish they kind of combined it with something else to make it a little bit more of a choice. It's not super great. So what it does is it gives you negative resistance equal to half your level, which is not a small amount, but because negative damage is very particular, especially considering other damage types like energy damages are just more common, that's okay. You also get a +1 to saving throws to any effects that have the negative trait, which is really good. Finger of Death and a lot of other really powerful spells are in this category, but again, a little bit more particular. It's a good feat overall if you want to shore up your defenses. If you're in a campaign that is fighting a lot of like liches, necromancers, all that kind of stuff, this is a good feat. Other than that, if you're playing a more general style campaign, this is probably a general pass. Also, if you're playing something like a Damnfire or a class or a ancestry that has negative healing, it's not going to be efficient because you already don't take any negative damage. So, this is just a kind of like a C level feat, but it's not a bad one depending on the kind of campaign you are in. Advanced Hallowed spell gives you the higher level version of either the Necromancy school spell, which in this case is Siphon or Life Siphon, which does trigger with your spell slots no matter what class you are, not just your wizard spell slots, which is really big, or the higher level Death Domain focus spell, which in this case is Eradicate Undeath. Now, it does require that you pick up the prior Hallowed spell feat to get the focus spells in the first place, but you don't actually need to select them in the line. You don't need to pick the advanced school spell or the advanced domain spell if that was the one you selected before. So you could select a domain spell first and then the Life Siphon second if you really wanted to. And like Hallowed spell, you can actually select this feat again to pick up the other one. And again, you don't need the prior one. So you can actually select like Call the Grave from the initial feat, and then you get this feat twice to get the higher level domain spells or focus spells if that's what you're looking for. Overall, this is another good way to get some better focus spells onto your spell list and overcap you on focus points, which is always a little rough, but in any regard, it's a really good feat for just a little bit more oomph with your focus spells. Speaking of focus spells, next up is Positive Luminance, which gives you the focus spell Positive Luminance and another focus point. So yeah, more focus points, yada yada. Positive Luminance is an interesting spell, but very situational. So it's a focus spell, it's one action, and it's only somatic. So you can do this even while silenced. Pretty interesting. It also has a duration of 1 minute. And what happens is you take in a bunch of positive energy into yourself and you glow a bright light for 10 foot emanation. Then you gain an internal pool of light called a luminance reservoir, which begins at a value of 4. This is a little bit of a more complicated focus spell, so bear with me. At the start of each of your turns, you can use a free action to increase this reservoir by another 4. If you do, the radius of your light increases by 10 feet. If an undead creature damages you with an attack or a spell while it's within the area of your light, the creature takes positive damage equal to half your luminance reservoir value. It takes this damage only the first time it damages you in a round. You can dismiss this spell, which is really good, and when you do, you can target a creature within your light and direct the positive energy into it. The target must be a willing living creature or an undead creature. This heals a living target or damages an undead target by an amount equal to your luminance reservoir's value. It says this target must be a willing living creature or an undead creature. I missed that the first time. When you can cast positive luminance, any other positive or when you recast it, the old one fades away, so you can't cast it multiple times. And then this can be heightened. Every time you heighten it, increases the reservoir value you can get when you start, and each turn when you focus to do so again by 1. So at spell level 5, it would be 5 and 5. It's always essentially your spell level you get. So let me break this down in TLDR. So when you use this spell, you gain a reservoir value of 4. That means any undead that attacks you or casts a spell on you within your 10-foot emanation takes 2 damage. On your turns, you can spend an action to increase your reservoir, increasing the range that you cover, so similar to the Bless spell, and increasing the reservoir, meaning that now any undead that attacks you will take 4 damage, or, if you finish the spell, if you dismiss the spell willingly before the time is up, you can hurt an undead for 4 damage with, is it a basic saving throw? It's not. They just take the damage, and it's positive damage, and a lot of undead just have a weakness to positive damage, which means you can just automatically hit them and proc their weakness, which is really good. Or provide some healing. Depending on how long the combat goes, that can be pretty good, even with the average combat being around 3, between 3 and 5, so 4 rounds, we can say. That can be pretty beefy. 16 healing or 16 damage, and any undead that attacks you is gonna take like an average amount of damage of like, what, 7, something like that. So it's pretty good, or 6 actually. So it's pretty good overall. I actually really, really like Positive Luminance, and it gives you something to do on your turns. If you're not doing Recall Knowledge, you don't need to move anymore. You can enhance your Bright Light. This is so good in so many situations, and it creates an area where undead really just don't want to be because they're just constantly in danger of taking effects. And if you combine this with Hallowed Ground, you can make an area that is just completely undesirable for undead of any kind to get into. It's overall a really good focus spell to pick up. And we got one more feat on the list, but like always, I'm going to ask you guys to please hallow the sub button down here in the corner to help get these videos out, help more people see it. If you could leave a like, that'd be very good as well. This is an invaluable channel for people who are looking for more information on the archetypes and looking for hints and tips. As well, we do information on other tabletops. So if you want to help me and my goals of really getting tabletop out to more people, please follow the channel. It really helps out. But let's go ahead and get to that final feat, and that's going to be Consecrated Aura. Consecrated Aura is a really good one. It's just an aura that you constantly have now. I believe you can use an action. No, I only think you can use an action to get rid of it. So what happens is your body emanates an aura in a 20-foot emanation, and any undead that enter that aura must succeed a will save or become frightened 1. Now, unlike normal frightened conditions, this affects undead specifically, even if they're mindless, which is really good. Now, if they crit fail the check, they also become, or they're just frightened too, which is really, really good. The DC for this aura is equal to your spell DC, so if you're a full caster, really, really good. But honestly, there's a lot of ways you can get up to master proficiency, and even though you select this feat at level 14, master proficiency is not too far off. I think you can get master proficiency as early as level 16, but maybe 18. Either way, 4 levels isn't really that far off, and it's a good feat. And as well, I didn't mention this before, but any spells that you picked up from the Hallowed Necromancer uses the same tradition as what you use to get the dedication feat in the first place. So whatever tradition you had to qualify to be a Hallowed Necromancer is the tradition that all these spells line into, which is important for sure for the focus spells specifically, and for the aura that you create. Overall, Hallowed Necromancer is really cool. It's a good way to make a wizard even more kind of focused on the necromancy / the kind of almost divine spells. In a sense, you can get some more divine spells. You get a lot of focus spells that are either from the domains, which are typically divine spellcaster specific, or, just amping up more of your own pool of school spells, which are going to go away. So I don't know how necromancy is going to be really weird. I don't know how this is going to work with the remaster because necromancy is going to go away as a school. But I'm assuming there either is a countermeasure or this is just one of those things that's the backwards compatibility. If a spell is necromancy, you can select it even in the remaster. It really doesn't change anything as far as how the remaster works. So, I don't know. I like the Hallowed Necromancer. I think this is very character defining. I really love the idea of like a non-divine caster having divine like abilities because of knowledge or their research into like the positive energy plane. I think that's really cool. But let me know if any of you have used Hallowed Necromancer, how it worked for you, and give us your stories down in the comments. But that's gonna be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Lead the bad luck to me, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.